Welcome back, BookTok enthusiasts, to another episode of Dragons and Spaceships, where we shine a spotlight on all the sci-fi and fantasy books that are taking the platform by a storm. I'm your host, Brandi, and today we are diving into the world of dragons and wyverns, talking about Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. But before we get into this episode, let's take a look at the Realm and Galactic rankings of trending books this week. Some of the top 5 trending sci-fi and fantasy books this week are Spark of the Everflame by Penn Cole, A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair, What Did You Do by Janine O'Reilly, A Broken Blade by Melissa Blair, and The Atlas 6 by Olive Blake. Now it's time for the Captain's Log, where we bring you insights and stories from our featured guest or the host monologue. Okay, let's dive into this book. I debated on doing this book as a podcast because you can find so much stuff out there about this book. This is obviously a very talked about book these days. In fact, there's a podcast, shout out to the Fantasy Fangirls. They have a whole season dedicated to this book, and they go chapter by chapter for this one and Iron Flame. And I love that. I know some people think that this book is talked about too much, but honestly, it's not overhyped for me. I can honestly say that this book has been one of my most favorite reads in the past year. I first found out about Fourth Wing last fall of 2023. I read it within a week, and instantly Iron Flame came out a couple weeks later. Read that one so fast. I love these books, and I listened to it audiobook, and then they came out with the graphic audio version of it, which is a movie in your head type of thing. If you have never listened to graphic audio, I highly recommend to go listen to that because it is just top tier. Some people have a hard time with it, but being a voice actor myself, I just love it. I love being able to just sit back and listen to a movie in my ears, basically. And it is just so fun. So I listened to it on audio, I bought the book, and I listened to graphic audio with it. That is how much I love this book. What prompted me to talk about this book is because Rebecca Yarros just recently dropped the art cover for Onyx Storm, which will be the 3rd book in the Empyrean series. And that comes out January of next year. And I am so excited. January cannot come soon enough. I cannot wait to dive back into these series and see what happens because there's so many twists and turns, and Iron Flame just kind of left me processing and thinking about life and wondering what's going to happen next. So if you've been curious if you should dive into this book or not, stick around and see if it's something that interests you. So let's get into it, shall we? First off, let's go ahead and read the summary you can find on Goodreads. 20-year-old Violet Thornhill was supposed to enter the scribe quadrant, leaving a quiet life among books and history. Now the commanding general, also known as her toughest Talon's mother, has ordered Violet to join the hundreds of candidates striving to become the elite of the Navari Dragon Riders. But when you're smaller than everyone else and your body is brittle, death is only a heartbeat away because dragons don't bond to fragile humans. They incinerate them. With fewer dragons willing to bond than cadets, most would kill Violet to better their own chances of success. The rest would kill her just for being her mother's daughter. Like Zayden Ryerson, the most powerful and ruthless wing leader in the Riders Quadrant, she'll need every edge her wits can give her just to see the next sunrise. Yet, every day that passes, the war grows more deadly, the Kingdom Protector's wards are falling, and the death toll continues to rise. Even worse, Violet begins to suspect leadership is hiding a terrible secret. Friends, enemies, lovers, everyone at Basgaiath War College has an agenda, because once you enter, there's only 2 ways out: graduate or die. I remember reading that plot before I started this book, and I was like, okay, let's see what this is about. And the plot does a great job giving you the details you need, but also not spoiling anything. Fourth Wing is an enthralling addition to the fantasy and sci-fi genres, blending elements of adventure, romance, and a coming of age in a world brimming with magic and intrigue. The world building, the characters, everything in this book, I loved it. It was great. Let's go ahead and look into the characters. So first we have our girl, Violet Thornhill. Violet is honestly a breath of fresh air when it comes to fantasy heroines. Her determination, intelligence, and vulnerability make her a relatable and engaging character as she navigates the dangers of the Riders Quadrant. Her growth and resilience become essential to the story's emotional core. Now let's talk about Zayden. Zayden Ryerson is chef's kiss. He is the quintessential dark brooding, but with a depth that sets him apart. His very complex relationship with Violet is one of the highlights of the book, providing a slow burn romance that is as captivating as it is intense. His backstory and motivations add significant character development, making him much more than just the love interest. There are so many characters in this book that are just really intriguing. We've got Dane, who love him, hate him. There's a lot of opinions out there about him. We've got Dane, we've got her mother, we've got her friends that she meets along the way, we've got some of the professors, and of course we have the dragons that we also get to meet. One of my favorite parts about this is the dragons choose you. You don't choose the dragon. And so it is all a worthy test and a test of resilience and bravery. And it's hard to talk about the dragons without spoiling too much of the story. But my favorite is Tern. He's one of the big black dragons. And Rebecca Yarros has said in an interview before that she made Tern after her grumpy bulldog that she has. And so he's kind of like a grumpy father figure in it. And it's just really cool. So you'll have to go read the story so you can learn more about the dragons. That's pretty much all I'll say about the dragons. But oh my gosh, the dragons are my favorite part. I'm not normally into dragons so much, but this really just was super awesome to be reading about the complexities of the dragons world as well, and their thoughts and feelings versus the humans, and seeing that transpire. The world building in this book creates a vivid and immersive setting. The writer's quadrant is a place of danger and allure, with its own rules and politics and culture. The magical elements, including the dragons and their riders, are intricately woven into the fabric of the world, adding depth and intrigue. The lore and history of this world are gradually revealed, keeping readers hooked as they learn more about the world as Violet finds out more about the world. Violet's journey is as much about self-discovery as it is survival. The novel delves into dynamics of power and control, both personal and political, and examines what it means to fight for one's place in the world. There is a play of destiny and choice as a recurring motive, and it adds layers and meaning to the characters and their actions and decisions. I really want to keep this podcast as spoil-free as possible, just because I just really think everybody should read this book. I am just really a big fan of it. I don't think it is overhyped. I know some people do, but I really think it is a good recommendation for people out there. I think it's a standout entry in the fantasy and sci-fi genre. I think it adds a perfect blend of action, romance, and emotional depth. I love a lot of Rebecca Yarros' books. I read her The Last Letter and In the Likely Event, and I loved them both. And I think this just continues on to go to show how great of a writer Rebecca Yarros truly is, and how she can just pull you into any story and make you feel love and care for these characters that she has created. This book has so many elements to it that will just keep you thinking about the story even after you have read it, even after almost a year after you've read it. I still think about this story all the time. So whether you're a fan of fantasy, you want to try out fantasy, or simply looking for a compelling read with rich characters and a captivating plot, I would say that Fourth Wing is a must read. Also, after you read it, I highly recommend going on to BookTok and looking at some of the videos that people have made, because it's hysterical and it's so cool. There's so many people that have created with some of the audio from the graphic audio version, and they added like pictures and like what in their head it looks like when they're reading Fourth Wing, and different things. And they talk about how it's a 5-series book, and things have moved really quickly for some of the characters, and that really makes you nervous of what's going to happen in the future. So I just cannot wait. I hope these books just keep coming out. I hope that it continues to go in the direction that it's going. Knowing Rebecca Yarros, it probably will, because she just is an amazing writer. Before we go, we have 2 more segments to go over real quick. First, we have the Dragon's Roar. In today's Dragon Roar, we are going to be diving into the latest BookTok news or drama or anything revolving BookTok. The news this week is that Suzanne Collins, the author of The Hunger Games, announced that she will be putting out a new book next year in 2025 called Sunrise on the Reaping. I cannot wait. It's going to be so wonderful. I have loved all of Suzanne Collins' books. I'll definitely be purchasing this one. Next, we have the Sorcerer's Scrolls, where we look at some forthcoming fables and quests you can embark on soon. Today, we're going to highlight a book called The Crimson Crown by Heather Walter. This book comes out this summer, and it is going to be book 1 in the Crimson Crown series. And this is a little bit about it. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the wickedest of them all? Snow White's Dark Queen tells her side of the story in the first book of a queer witchy duology that reimagines the classical fairy tale. It's an alluring, vengeful origin story that brings tremendous dimension to a classical fairy tale. Legends of a witch who will become a queen, the heartless villain in the story of Snow White. But now the wicked queen is stepping out of Snow White's shadow to become the heroine of her own legend. Well, that's it for today's episode of Dragons and Spaceships. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the realms and starships. Have you read Fourth Wing? If so, drop a comment and tell us what you think about the series and if you think it's overhyped or if you think it's not hyped enough, honestly. And drop a comment because we would love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe and find us on social media for more engaging book reviews and recommendations. Until next time, happy reading, keep exploring the fantastical and the futuristic, and may your TBR pile never stop growing.